A warm welcome from the Smart Manufacturing Alliance and myself, Tracy Grazioli, the Network Development Manager. We are a membership organisation dedicated to supporting manufacturers in the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough region. Our goal is to foster collaboration, share knowledge and inspire individuals within the manufacturing community. Today, we have our first of a series of special discussions on the topic of mental resilience. Joining us is Mark Jenkins, a Senior Engineer and Director at Huxley Bertram, one of our esteemed members. Mark will be in conversation with Patrick Melville, an accredited Mental Health England first aider and public speaker. Over to you, Patrick, to lead the discussion on this very important subject.
Yes, I'm so pleased to be having a conversation which is close to everyone's heart and, of course, minds, building mental resilience. Thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Hello, Patrick. Hello, Tracy. Thank you for the invitation.
Pleasure. So let's go straight to it. I would like to start with my first question and hear your thoughts. What have been the main drivers and causes of stress in the industry this year?
I think this year it sort of goes on probably a little bit further back than just this year, but I think two key ones for us as a business have been the effects of COVID and what that's had not only on the business but individuals as well within the business. We've also had some delays to goods, electronic parts in particular with engineering have been a problem to source. So getting hold of goods that might have taken weeks have taken over a year to year and a half. And those sort of things put pressures on the workloads, put pressures on project schedules and the deliveries that people are signing up to do as part of their job. And that causes a problem, not only because people are stressing about trying to get their work completed within the schedules, but also if the goods aren't there, we haven't got the workload to actually work, which could actually have and does have an impact on potential overtime. So whereas certain individuals might sort of relish the idea or I hesitate to say need overtime, but they get used to working overtime. When there's no overtime, that adds additional financial pressures to individuals. So those two factors, COVID and sort of sourcing of electronic goods, have been pretty key over the last couple of years. I think the other thing that adds to this is general inflation within the country, and that's across the board, not just in the engineering sector, but the increased cost of living has a huge impact on people, their well-being, and just the way they behave and react, and when they're feeling the pinch a little bit.
Yes.
And, especially for the individuals that might have to travel a little bit further to get to work, suddenly becomes their costs for travel are suddenly extortionate, way beyond what they expected. So I think that they're the three main stress factors I would put my finger on to start with for individuals.
Thank you. And it sounds like there's stress drivers which cause more stress. And of course, it's a kind of control number that happens externally in the industry. And that's what you've been labeling at the moment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I find it's very easy to talk about the problems and the issues, but I want to focus also on what is the ways that the mental resilience has been built in your organization. What have you seen?
Well, I think quite early on when we saw COVID was an issue, we started to put in place certain things. One of them is an EAP system, which is an employee assistance program. So we invested in a company, Westfield Healthcare. Not sure I can say that or not. You can delete that one. But that's a free helpline for all of our employees that enable them to call to discuss any of their problems. And the problems can be sort of health related, so mental or physical health. Can also be financial or legal matters as well. So it's not just associated with their health, but those other factors could be influencing mental health issues as well. So EAP is one thing we put in place.
Yes.
We've also investigated for our first aiders some additional mental health care training, first aiders, and really that's that training is identifying or trying to deal with giving sort of some competency and confidence within our first aiders to be able to really spot the signs of of individuals that might be struggling a little bit, and maybe help with some techniques on how to respond and help them from a healthcare sort of point of view. They're not specialists by any means, but at least they're they're there as a sort of a looking out for their colleagues, as it were.
Well, that's exactly why it was launched. It's about early intervention, and of course, what they're really doing a lot is that the people who are the experts are actually the people who work in the business. So they know what the stress drivers are, don't they?
Yeah.
They know what the challenges are. And I think it's learning that language, that trust to be able to do that. And I'm sure from those conversations, it leads to quicker ways to get help and to use that. For example, your EAP work as well. I find sometimes people don't use it. Either they don't know it or they feel they shouldn't. And of course, these first aiders and other groups are able to encourage them.
Yeah, I think when you say they feel they shouldn't, I think that's the problem is people don't like to accept or feel that they've got an issue, and I think that's something that might maybe been a bit more open and understanding will help all round. There's a couple of other things actually, Patrick, when it comes to what we've done, and we have set aside a small budget to actually assist financially the encouragement of staff social activities. So we have various people within the company will get together at various times to deal with some sort of social group activities like temping bowling, some games nights where we would give some funding towards, and even not sure if you're aware about the Cambridge Dragon Boat competition that was
very famous.
So we put a team into that, and the company supported that, and so trying to encourage some sort of team building and sort of camaraderie within groups within the business.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's bespoke. That's one of the key things, which is every organization, every team, and every individual is different, and the fact that you put it together based on the passions for your teams, and of course through that relationship, sounds fantastic. And I'm sure it doesn't matter necessarily if you win or not.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and it's it's the team, it's that the group of individuals decide themselves what they want to do. So it's their own interests.
Yes. Yeah.
We're not pushing anything onto anyone.
And it sounds like you're doing a good balance between what I call being reactive to anyone who's got troubles, like a mental health first aider, to being proactive. You're helping people through sharing, and I'm sure there's some amazing conversations that happen. There's a classic thing, with going outside the meeting room, sometimes the most important meeting, and the important conversations are around the coffee cooler. Maybe going to Cambridge to do that race as well as other times. Can I ask another question about, it's one of the softer sides of mental health and well-being, how to justify it. And I know it's a cost. It's a cost in time. It's a cost in budget as well. Is it worth it? And I know this is coming more to the forum with companies, but how do you justify it in any way? I mean, are there any ways or softer ways that come up that you use?
Well, for the justification side of things, I think that you get straight away the staff appreciation that the company is supporting them. So there's that. That then lends itself, I think, a little bit to, and it's really, you can't quantify this, but staff retention. So retaining your staff. We have a culture here, I guess, where we want people to want to come to work. We try to provide an interesting, exciting workplace for people, so that people enjoy coming to us. We're quite fortunate as an engineering company that we are truly engineering led. So myself as a team of 7 directors, and 6 of us are engineers, and the of 6, we're all very much hands-on and enjoy the engineering. That's part of what we do. We like to be involved with interest in engineering. We like to make the work we do interesting. So bit of an engineer's playground for most people.
Yes. Could you ask about that? So I'm asking you about, the interest. How do you get that passion, to help them to come in? What's the engineering angle that comes to mind?
To be honest, if somebody's gone into engineering themselves, there's a reason behind it, and it's because they used to take their parents' toasters or kettles apart and try and rebuild them with very little success, probably, or their bikes, cars, motorbikes. Those sort of people that are interested. The big one recently, really, I guess, is 3D printing, and you get a lot of people being able to go and buy their own 3D printers, or even print parts to build their own 3D printer. So once you've got one, you can just keep going. Those people, those technical people that have a real interest for engineering, tend to just find us, I guess.
Yes. And that word, really, the word that comes to mind is curiosity. From a very young age, it's not a new word, but it's so relevant now, that curiosity. And of course, in the manufacturing industry and the engineering side, there's that curiosity. How can fine tuning and go into the area? And of course, it's a lovely angle in our minds. Everyone is different. Everyone has their own focus, don't they? And I think it's finding that in your group, building that. If I can put an analogy, some sort of infrastructure, literally a physical body that you put together.
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of other points. Why would we invest and put money into this? Talked about the appreciation of staff and potential retention. The other 2 aspects of this is whether you can use it as a proactive thing for recruitment. So you talk about it whilst you're recruiting and such company, and the way we like to look after our staff. Also, and I'm not sure we do this at all at the moment, but I'm sure there's probably scope somewhere for us to, explain to our clients, that whilst we're trying to get across to a new business and new clients of what type of company we are, that we are positive in supporting our staff. So I think that will probably have a positive outcome further down the road, where you want to be working with people that are looking out for the people that are working for them.
Yes, that's a really good thing, because mental health is at the core. The mind is at the core, and I think if you just label it, for example, previously it used to be Mental Health Awareness Week in May. That was it. I mean, I was told, don't talk to us until then. And now you broaden into every single area. And you're right, marketing, I think it's a good world, because, it's justifiable to say it's a pretty stressful industry, but we're prepared. We're prepared to manage it, and as you were saying. And it'll be interesting to know, and hopefully I'm sure some of the viewers would like to know as and when how that applies. And of course, the client side, if I can ask, what's the plan with them to know about this? Is it something that 2024 maybe, or?
I don't know. I think this is quite a new area that's sort of growing rather rapidly, about just the sheer awareness of bringing that awareness up to every sort of area of the business, not just within the business, not within different departments, not just when you're recruiting and pushing it out to your suppliers and clients, but it's just, it's something that I think we need to continue the understanding and the awareness within the company itself. We need to, and understand ourselves what benefits that might give us to people outside the company. And like you say, the marketing side of it might certainly be an area that we could look at. We're also looking internally at further mental health care training for people. So it's okay perhaps having 1 or 2 first aiders aware of it. There's the managers and just your the other individuals and groups within the company, just raising this, I think, could benefit quite a few areas and a few people. It's sort of a dark secret for some people, kept in the background. And I get it. Everyone's different, and they don't want to share all their background stories. I get that, but when an individual might have a problem that is influencing their performance at work, their ability or their interaction with others, then it might be worth looking at discussing that with somebody within the business to help others understand as well. Understand what people might be going through.
Yes, and it's interesting, and it's always been a marketing tip when you're trying to talk to someone. It's all about how they say things and their physical side. So it's not just the words themselves. It's 7% apparently in some research of the influence. The rest of it is, as I was saying, and it's understanding that. So when someone says "I'm fine," how do they say it? Do they mean what they say? Do they just actually want to get on with something? And that's kind of looking into everyone to be able to do that and to build the culture together. You're only as good as your slowest employee. But that's lovely to know. And as we look at 2024, what are your thoughts about where things are going? I'd love to hear.
So it's a hard one. I mean,
big one.
I don't actually see things changing very much in industry over the next sort of 12 months. I think we're still going to be in the aftermath of COVID and parts and instability, or people's uncertainty, businesses' uncertainty going forward. That leads to uncertainty in security and people's working within particular companies. There might be some uncertainty there. I think that as I say, the general awareness of mental health just will continue to grow, and I think that will certainly help in certain areas of business.
Brilliant.
But there are other external factors that we'll never get a handle on. As I say, inflation for one.
Yes. Yeah.
What's happening in the big wide world?
I know. I think the big word is control. And I think that sometimes it's quite easy to focus on what we can't control. Generally, the organizations in manufacturing I've worked with and others, it's trying to put a lot of time into making a slight difference instead of focusing on stuff they can control, which does have an eventual impact. And of course, 2024, you're right. It's a new year, new outcomes as well. But stuff can be built, can't they? Like as we come to Christmas, just saying thank you is not a hard cost to make, and for people to say to each other thank you and to bring into 2024 is a way. And of course, if there was one piece or several pieces of advice you wanted to share with the viewers, what would it be, sort of in the industry?
Yeah, I think there's probably several.
Please. Yeah.
I think it's been a tough few years for everybody. So if you're feeling a little bit worn down, then you're probably not alone. There's lots of people probably, you won't see it or understand it or know it. But it's been a tough few years for a lot of people, I think. Sharing your issues with others could help, especially if you feel that they are, as I said earlier, affecting possibly your performance or social interactions. Talk to people, talk to your HR within work, talk to your first aiders if they've got that sort of mental health awareness, and maybe your manager. If you think these things are maybe affecting you and within your work environment, it's worth sharing a little bit, I think. So being a little bit open and honest with people. People can be compassionate and can have empathy. So being patient with others as well, because it might not just be yourself that's struggling. Being understanding, supportive, and having that empathy, I think, is really key.
Yes.
To keeping good working relationships going within your working environment. And keep an eye out for others who you feel might be struggling. But as we said, we're not experts. So, you know, it's hard to understand what to look out for. With a little bit more educational awareness, maybe that will help.
I like those points. And I think what they're very toned on is this resilience theme. It's about resilience is about coping quicker. And that comparative word is so strong. It's not the only way to recover from worry, but resilience builds that foundation. And of course, it's through those areas like sharing, just talking. There's a classic one where if you just talk, it automatically can de-stress because it takes away, you know, your mind will clog up and be very cluttered by just talking about it. And of course, with a trusted source, you know, maybe not with a client as your first conversation, but again, you understand that relationship and keeping an eye out for others. You know, that kind of question, how are you? I am fine. You know, it's understanding what that means and going into that deeper. Just building that culture together, which sounds like in the manufacturing industry, it's being done slowly, but that's well, the good thing is that there's movement. It's, you know, we love to.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're getting better.
And of course, there'll be other companies as well who I'm sure will be interested to know. So those are my main questions, and I think we've come to the end. Is there anything else you want to share, have come to mind, or thought?
Not over and above what I've already said without repeating myself, but yeah, it's an interesting time, and I think a little bit more awareness would help all round. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to come along, and I hope that the viewers will take some things away from that. Feel free to get in touch with Tracy or myself for any other questions. We want to bring this service into the industry and to help with, exactly as Mark said, performance, not just with mental health, but also in marketing, recruitment, and commercial side as well. Thank you very much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Last words for Tracy. Do you want to say something?
No, it's all really interesting. Haven't times changed that we were all so much more caring about other individuals? So it was great, Mark. Thank you very much. Found it very informative, and you're doing a great job at Huxley Bertram. Really impressed. Thank you. And thank you, Patrick.
Really thank you, Patrick.
Take care.
Cheers.